Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to both the first and the last council meeting. The first council meeting of our new 2018 to 2022 council, the first business meeting post the inauguration, and the last council meeting for 2018. And at this point, I would invite all those who are able to stand and join us in the singing of our computerized O Canada. Okay, it's been moved by Councillor John Gazzola that the minutes of the regular meeting held November 19th and the special meetings held November 19th, December 3rd, and 10th as mailed to the Mayor and Councillors be accepted. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Councillor Marsh.
Yes, I have a pecuniary interest on the first item that came out of the caucus meeting because I live within 120 meters of the property.
Okay, thank you. We'll deal with that item separately. Any others? No? We'll move on then. Any communications? There being none, we'll move into presentations. And our first presentation today is from Matt Farrell, the Ontario Building Officials Association. He's the president. And the Chief Building Official for the Township of Huron-Kinloss, and Aubrey LeBlanc, the Chief Administrative Officer. And they have some good news about the 2018 OBOA Andy Kidd Award. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Your Worship, and thank you to the members of council as well for allowing me to come here today and present this prestigious award. First of all, I would like to congratulate all the returning members to council as well as the new faces that are here at the table. That's well done. It is my pleasure today, on behalf of the Ontario Building Officials Association, to bestow two of our highest honors, the Andy Kidd Award and Life Membership, to Mr. Mike Sealing, Director of Building and Chief Building Official for the City of Kitchener. The first award is named after Andy Kidd, who was the City of Kitchener Plans Examiner for 20 years. Unfortunately, Andy died from a sudden illness in 1985, just 6 months short of his retirement. He was well liked by his peers, a straight shooter, and a mentor to a number of his staff here. Andy was OBOA president from 1982 to 1984, and was known in the construction industry as a visionary who saw the value in building relationships with our many partners. Life membership is only granted to those who serve the association in an outstanding manner and have shown remarkable dedication and impact. Mike Sealing has surpassed these criteria and is seen as a role model for the future and current generations of building officials in the province. He is also the first OBOA president from the city since Andy Kidd. I've gotten to know Mike well in the past few years, and one thing I know that he is proud of his home, the city of Kitchener. Mike graduated from Conestoga College and has been a long-time employee with the city, apparently 27 years, according to Facebook. So,
I heard that rumor yesterday.
Yeah, it gets out there pretty quickly. and has resided in Kitchener with his wife and daughters for many years. Mike has spent 12 years on the OBOA board starting in 2005 and made great impact in both the association and the building profession during that time. He will be known for the efforts he made in strengthening partnerships with all building industry stakeholders, but also for the new relationships with non-traditional groups that were formed. Mike developed a bond with the policy advisors from AMO and provided commentary on proposed regulation change that impacted both developers and municipalities. To this day, he is their go-to person for insight on the building code. Mike is also highly respected by the provincial government. His professional approach resonated with both bureaucrats and elected officials, so much so that the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing attended our annual conference both years during his term as president. He brought our association to a new level of stability that we have not previously enjoyed. He oversaw the creation of an entire educational system platform that will ensure building officials throughout Ontario and Canada will have the highest level of training at their disposal. He's promoted knowledge through networking, consistency in administration, and professionalism in practice. Again, he is the model building official. And I, like many in the building official community, see Mike as a trusted friend, a person who cares about the people of his community as much as he cares about his family, someone that truly wants to know how you're doing and what's happening in your life. I'm sure you already know this, however, how fortunate the city is to have Mike as part of their family. But on behalf of the OBOA, I would like to thank you for sharing him with our building official community and the OBOA. It gives me great pleasure at this time to bestow Mr. Mike Sealing with the OBOA Andy Kidd Award and life membership.
It's not that often building officials get this kind of attention. It's not something that we really look for. Thank you very much, Matt and Aubrey, for coming down to the City of Kitchener Council Chambers on an evening for this award presentation. I really appreciate it, and thank you very much to Council for allowing this opportunity. The 2018 Andy Kidd Award is extremely important, not so much the award or who it's being presented to, but Andy Kidd is a former employee of this organization. I never had the opportunity to meet Andy, but I was able to interview former employee Laurie Prue to find out some of the information about Andy Kidd. And I was also able to interview Michael Kidd, his son, who was a local real estate agent, to find out about his son when I was on the board, to talk about who this Andy Kidd person was. And the fact that I'm a proud Kitchener employee, and the fact that Andy was a former employee is just amazing. It speaks volumes for the corporation. It speaks volumes for the building division, and last but not least, it's important to myself. So it's extra special earning that award. I need to thank a few people along the way. The corporate leadership team, both past and present. I've reported to a few general managers over the years, and I've had their consistent support in pursuing this goal of being on the board for 12 plus years and eventually becoming president. In fact, the corporate leadership team came to the presentation when I became president, which I had no idea about, but it was a huge, it was a nice special surprise. I've learned a number of lessons along the way, and I want council to know, including the new incoming members of council, that my hair was not gray when I started that role, but I've learned a few things. In terms of, I've enhanced my leadership style, thanks to the corporation and the senior leadership team. I've got a better appreciation for the building code process. We've enhanced our relationships with the ministry. I was always taught from a young age that if we can be part of the solution, it allows the City of Kitchener, in our case, to be ahead of the curve, and we can also have some influence on some of the changes. Not always are the code changes technical. One of the things that we've lobbied for as an organization to help our staff and make sure that our customers are looked after is requalifications of our provincial requirements. The province wanted to, or some staff wanted to do it strictly through examination, and we as an organization said that there's a much better way to do it other than just purely examination, because some people can pass exams, but you give them a building code to apply, and they're lost. So, Margaret, I see it nodding your head, so thank you for that. One of the things I also learned is when I spoke representing the association, I had to have printed minutes all the time. And so one of the things I was able to do over time through practicing is have a couple cheat notes, and I'd be able to speak. So you have to make yourself vulnerable and practice, and it enhances your professional development. In terms of thanking some other people, this award is also shared by a number of people on the 5th floor. In no particular order, but my assistant, Tracy Ginrich, has been a huge help, because during my time as president, I had a number of letters that would have to be quickly typed up, proofread, before they were sent out for Aubrey's or my signature. So I really appreciated that. So during that time, she was doing some extra duties. I also have a very fortunate, really good management team, Tammy Hogg, Tim Benedict, and Robert Schipper, and also Martina Schneider, who assisted. And because when I wasn't here on evenings or weekends or morning meetings, we still have a business to do. We have building permits to complete, and we have inspections that need to get done. So they really took the bull by the horn, and they filled in flawlessly. And last but not least, on the building division team is the balance of the team, the people that have to do the work, that issue the building permits and do the inspections, or answer the phone, or answer those queries of when I need a building permit. So thanks to all the members of the building division team over on the 5th floor. And last but not least, I have to thank my family. Because without their support, obviously I was taken away from the home life, but I had full support. So thank you very much, Kara. Really appreciate it. So thank you very much, Council, and I look forward to helping you out in terms of issuing building permits like we have in the past, and building more relationships with all of our customers. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you to both Matt and Aubrey for joining us, particularly at this busy time of the year, to present this award. It's great to have an award that is named after one of our former employees being presented to one of our current employees. And to you, Mike, congratulations on not only the award, but on 27 years of public service. As I think I said on Facebook yesterday, you've certainly brought 27 years of professionalism, integrity, and excellence in customer service to the roles that you've had, and in particular to the role of CBO. So thank you, and congratulations on behalf of Council. Councillor Gazzola, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I would. I would like to congratulate Mr. Sealing. We have a lot of rounds here every year when we're dealing with budgets and whatnot, and it's a pleasure to work with you. We've had our disagreements, we've had more agreements than we've had disagreements. And the other reason I wanted to mention that when I saw this on the agenda, I said, Andy Kidd, I wasn't sure. It's quite interesting to learn that he is one of our former employees. So congratulations. Thanks.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much.
Barry,
Yes.
can we get a picture with you?
Oh, sure. Okay, just hang on. Okay, our next delegation is Catherine Dever to talk about our KW Joint Service Initiatives. Great story about collaboration in KW. Catherine, over to you.
Thank you very much, and good evening, Council. On behalf of our corporate leadership team, I'm pleased to provide this year's update from the Kitchener-Waterloo Joint Services Initiative Committee. It's been about 1 year since our last update, and there's plenty of great news to share. And I'll note our neighbours in Waterloo received this same report at their meeting on November 26th. Kitchener and Waterloo have a long-standing positive relationship of collaboration toward benefits to citizens. We established a formal joint services committee in 2006 with the goal to provide residents in both cities more efficient and effective municipal services wherever possible. Since that time, we've collaborated together on over 75 initiatives. Many continue as ongoing practice today, while others were project-specific and have been completed. The committee was relaunched in 2015 with a refreshed terms of reference and has met annually over the last 2 years. Committee membership includes the CAOs and senior leadership teams of both cities. Prior to our annual meetings in June, staff identify opportunities where broader collaboration may be possible, either within day-to-day operations or in our annual business plans. These opportunities are then scoped out using a common template, and a short list of the most feasible and best aligned to the program's principles are agreed to by the committee. So the report before you highlights 4 such initiatives from last year, which I'll review with you briefly now. A sanitary sewer rebate program sought to collaborate on rebate programs in both cities and work toward consistent criteria, methods to verify rebates, and consistent communications. A stormwater management design and operations initiative looked at ways to maintain our collective leadership role in this area by collaborating on issues such as flood risk mitigation and emergency preparedness. Key areas that we'll collaborate on an ongoing basis will be master plan implementation, site plan development design controls, and credit programs. In preparation for the 2018 municipal election, staff collaborated to achieve cost-effective procurement of equipment and services, including laptops, printing, and voter notification cards, resulting in a savings of approximately $17,000. An assessment management initiative focused on finding ways in our growing communities to review and inspect vacancy applications and improve the information flow from the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation to ensure assessments are accurately captured. Through this review, Kitchener determined we have sufficient work to establish 2 staff positions, while Waterloo determined that they would hire an external company to assist with this function. And while the solution for each of us was different, we've committed to share practices and ideas on an ongoing basis. Looking now to what's underway for this year, 7 formal initiatives have been identified that staff are working on. Both cities, along with other regional partners, are reviewing the uniform speed limit of 50 kilometers an hour to evaluate the benefits and feasibility of reducing to 40 to enhance roadway safety. Staff are investigating the potential for a new grant which would enable private property owners to enhance stormwater management on their properties, reducing runoff to municipal systems. We're jointly promoting a Bloom in a Box program which provides a $40 grant to homeowners toward purchase of a landscaping kit which helps reduce stormwater runoff. Both cities will assess the impact of provincial legislation requiring inclusion of affordable housing units in new residential developments and the option to implement related zoning. This will include exploring opportunities to combine resources for a required background study, and pending possible changes to the legislation, long-term resource or cost sharing will be assessed to develop, implement, and report on any new zoning provisions that are enacted. With Kitchener recently awarded the top mid-size fleet in North America award from the Government Fleet Expo, sharing fleet practices is being done with the goal of consistent training programs and transfer of knowledge and approaches to Waterloo. Staff will develop a shared program for annual sidewalk and road inspections. Enhanced programs above the current annual inspections are required due to changes in maintenance standards, and this will help us identify condition issues sooner and minimize risks. And finally, with a desire by residents for real-time access to information about when their street will be plowed during the winter, staff are collaborating to design a platform with the goal to pilot an app internally this winter. This initiative also includes Cambridge, a great example of broader collaboration beyond our 2 cities. 2 other examples of broader collaboration in the past year are the region and local municipalities submitted an expression of interest to Infrastructure Canada's Smart Cities Challenge, which encourages new technology or data opportunities to improve local quality of life. With our combined population of over 500,000, Waterloo Region was eligible to compete, and our submission focused on healthy children and youth was successful. Identifying solutions to the challenge will be the focus of the Phase 2 application in 2019. The Waterloo Region Education and Public Network is a long-standing partnership providing high-speed fiber optic network to local municipalities, school boards, public libraries, and other organizations. Over the summer, equipment was upgraded with minimal impact to users while positioning us to enjoy a reliable, fast, and affordable network into the next decade. We are getting the word out about our cooperative collaboration between the two cities and the benefits it provides through a variety of channels, including these annual reports, media releases, and website content, all to advance our goal of providing more seamless, practical, and efficient services to residents of both cities. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mayor Verbanovic, and the corporate leadership and team and I are happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much, Catherine. That's a great presentation and great to see both what we've done. I know in the past we've seen a very comprehensive list of the level of collaboration that exists between our communities, and it may be beneficial if staff can maybe even circulate that, certainly for the benefit of the new councillors, but also to just as a reminder for all of us in terms of the kinds of things we collaborate. And this is the most recent, both in terms of things that have been done in the last year and things that we're working on in the coming year. We do have a few questions for you. Councillor Singh, you're first.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Catherine. I agree with the Mayor's comments that this is a very good report, something that annually I look forward to seeing because it shows our endeavor for efficiencies between the two cities, of joining tasks wherever possible. So it's the report already outlines a great body of work that's going to be proceeding forward, and that's good to see. A few other questions I did have was, do we currently seek opportunities for joint training of staff wherever departments may be quite close to each other in their policies or the methods that the work is done? Do we do anything?
Yes, that's in fact one of the ongoing things that we do in a number of different areas.
Excellent. That's glad to hear. And that reduces costs for them as well.
Absolutely, and also would train staff on similar practices that then provide seamless service between the two cities. For example, our forestry crews, and I think they also sometimes do training with Kitchener-Wilmot Hydro. That's
very good. The other thing is, sometimes software that's quite of a undertaking to purchase or design, like our SAP system. Much of that worked within our staff as well, and we have proprietary tech to it. Is that something that we look out to partner with, City of Waterloo as well when we, take on that type of endeavor, or selling that type of proprietary software to them, or make it through license available to them when opportunity avails itself?
That I'm not too familiar with. I don't know if anyone on the corporate leadership team would be able to answer that.
Mr. Lautenbach?
Through the Mayor, we have had interest from other cities approaching us related to our revenue system. Interested to hear about what our system has provided for us as a city, but also potential opportunities to potentially license it down the road, working with the implementer that we used as part of our project.
That's excellent. It would be great for council to be apprised as those discussions, go forward, especially if there's successes with it as well. So, excuse me. And the other thing is, so similar to that question, before we go forward to purchasing some, I know that we do joint fleet management or purchasing, but the software side of things or training programs, do we approach City of Waterloo and seeing if there could be an avenue to purchase some software together, especially when those things are quite expensive?
I would say generally speaking, yes, if there's a solution that would meet the needs of both municipalities at the same time. Yeah, I don't have any specific examples of that, but definitely that's something we do look at.
Good, excellent. Thank you very much.
Hang on, Mr. Chapman, you wanted to add something?
So there are two recent examples. One is the engagement platform. So the Engage Waterloo Region platform that each area municipality also is a partner in was something that was procured jointly. So that reduced the cost because we licensed it together, and it also provided better service because a citizen can access that platform once to either comment on a city initiative or a regional one. The other example would be the customer relationship management system. That's between the city and the region, but again, the region was going out for a purchase, invited others to participate, and so we opted in, and as I recall, a very favorable, negligible cost to the city to participate with them in that.
So I was hoping that that's probably what we are doing, but hearing it does give greater confidence. So I would, as a comment, advise staff when something like that is going forward, especially an item comes forward, we see a price tag thinking that's the cheapest, we got it, but not realizing that we were able to attract additional, reductions because of the cooperation and aspect of efficiency, and that's something that we need to continually advertise and communicate to the public as well as council as well. Thank you.
Ms. Robb, you wanted to add something?
Yes, just one last example, Councillor Singh, through you, the Chair. Another example of where we haven't seen exact savings through a joint project would be the website updates. So we have a different schedule of updates to the website, but what we do is work with a similar vendor. So if intelligence is developed for one website that can be leveraged by the other municipality, we get it at a reduced rate than would be sold to sort of the broader general municipalities. So we don't capture it at the same timeline, but we do see those savings down the road.
Councillor Gazzola, you're next.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, and then I would like to make a brief comment. My first question is, we won that Smart City, and you said there's a $50 million prize. Has that been earned, or have we got things that we're doing with that, or what's?
I'm looking to my colleagues to see if anyone's aware, or perhaps the mayor's aware from
so
the region.
we're one of 5 municipalities to be shortlisted, Councillor Gazzola, and it's anticipated that I think the final application is due in February, late January, early February, and we anticipate the government will be making a decision in April of this year.
Okay, that's
Mr.
what
Chapman, did you want to add something, or?
Only to add that we did receive $250,000 of federal money to support the second round bid, and the area municipalities have matched that amount.
And what are we doing with the $250,000?
That's basically to support the development of the detailed bid for the grand prize.
For the front, okay. Yeah, the way I read it, I thought that we had won it, and I was wondering what we were going to do with it. But so we're on the short list, and are we down to 5 municipalities? So.
And then I'll just add, the good news on that is, other municipalities much larger in size in Ontario were not shortlisted, so it's good. And I think the reason we've been shortlisted, quite frankly, is it wasn't the kind of application that they expected from us, which would have been something heavily tech. It's more using tech for good and dealing with children and youth.
There are a lot of good recommendations or things that you've worked on. I would just wanted to zero in a bit on assessment management. This is something that we've gotten into in a bigger way in the last few years, and because I noticed we've hired 2 positions. That's somewhat new, is it not, in the last few years?
Mr. Lautenbach.
Through the mayor, back as part of the 2018 budget, there was an issue paper that we brought forward that identified 2 assessment-related resources. So we have hired one within an analyst role who has been active in that role through the fall, and we are still recruiting an assistant as well as part of that. But in terms of the discussions that took place with the City of Waterloo, there was joint discussions, and as the report indicates, they decided to go with an external consultant because the volume for them wasn't as great as it is here.
Yeah, that was what I was actually wondering about, whether we could someday sell our services to them, because it would be the same thing, and it's working together on it. So, and the other concern I had, and I'll bring this up later on when we do. I suspect we'll do a review of the election process for this past year. One of the big issues that I ran into was the assessment rolls and the voters list. So I'll just leave it at that. I just want to make a quick comment. This has been going on. This collaboration's been going on for many years, and it's amazing what we've done. Our staff working closely with the City of Waterloo, the things that we've been able to do. I'm not a big fan of amalgamation, and to me this is an area where we're able to show one of the big things that people talk about in amalgamation are the efficiencies and the cost savings. Well, we have it right now with all this collaboration between the two cities. We have that without any of the cities relinquishing any autonomy. So I'm really pleased to see that, and it's even good to see now that we've worked very closely for a number of years with the City of Waterloo and the region, and now Cambridge, the City of Cambridge, is coming and working on some projects too, which makes puts all three major cities in the region working together. So congratulations. Thank you.
You know, Councillor Gazzo, you make some great comments, because I think when we look at the two-tier structure across Ontario, I would certainly argue, you know, based on my involvement, and you know, all of us have seen it, that out of all of the regions in Ontario, I think this region has the best spirit of collaboration and cooperation amongst each other, and I think there's a lot to be said about that. Councillor Ioannidis.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Urbanovic, and thanks, Catherine, for your report and the good work that you do and the valuable work that you do, along with the Joint Services Committee. The three questions that I have to ask is, do we have a similar committee with regards to when we work with the region and with Cambridge?
No, not in this formal sense, we don't. I would suggest it's more ad hoc on specific programs or initiatives.
Okay. I guess my second question would be, when I look at this report, I go, I think this is fabulous, and I love what I'm seeing here, but I would really like to see a dollar value on what, and I think I asked for this the last time when we went through this, is what are we saving here? Because I know I can see we're probably saving significant dollars, but I think it would be really good to see if we could have a dollar figure to this.
Mm-hmm. I think that's something we can explore for some of the initiatives going forward, even for the 7 for this year. In some aspects, though, it's really more the quality and the positive relationship building and consistent service delivery, not always cost savings, but definitely when there are some, we could do a better job of reporting those next year.
Okay, and I agree with you on that, and this leads to my third question is, one thing that the average citizen doesn't have an idea of the amount of collaboration that we are doing, and are we doing anything to push this out, like market this? Because I think this is a really valuable story that should be told, and
I think we could be doing more as well. We do have some website content, but I don't know how frequently that's visited. I think we could do a better job.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep up doing the great work. This is always good news seeing this.
Okay, Councillor Chapman.
Yes, thank you, Catherine, for the report, and I'm actually surprised to learn of all the collaborative work that's going on between the two cities. My question is, well, it's a bit of a comment and a question, if I may, related to inclusionary zoning. As we know, in the region, we have over 4,200 families that are on a waiting list to get affordable housing, which is actually up by about 600 families from 2010, when I ran for City Council at that time. And we have over 300 chronically homeless people. I guess my question is more to city staff or whoever might be able to answer this. What will the city do, the City of Kitchener do, to work? I don't want to sound negative, so let me see, how can I phrase this? What if the City of Waterloo decides they're not the problem and they don't have to resolve this problem? What things can we do as a city, the City of Kitchener, to address the affordable housing issue? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't continue on with the study of this inclusionary zoning proposal, but I'd hate to see this go on for 6 months, a year, 2 years. Like, are there things that we can be doing to sort of expedite the process?
Mr. Reedman.
Through the Mayor, affordable housing is a priority of staff as well as a number of councillors, if not all councillors, around the Horseshoe. So as we're building our strategic plan, that's what we are looking at, is how to advance affordable housing in this community through that work. There's a report that was released in the previous term of council, which I can circulate to council, which shares some details around some research that had been completed in the past around affordable housing as well.
So what is it that
I think the only thing I would maybe add, Councillor Chapman, is that while I know where you're going with your concern, I would say that certainly I've sensed a change in tone from our neighbors to the north in the sense that while the issues and the scope of the issues might be different, there certainly seems to be a desire to be part of the solution because it does impact their community in maybe not in the same ways but in different ways.
Okay. I just think we've got a great opportunity, given all the development that's going on in the downtown cores, that, you know, we could act on it quickly.
Absolutely. Councillor Marsh, you're next.
All right, thank you. I agree with Councillor Ioannidis that we need to, you know, share this good news story more often, and especially with the stormwater grant programs, and you know, I think that would be easy for us to include in our billing in the future, etc. I wanted to pick up on where Councillor Chapman was going. I just want to confirm: do we currently have capacity within our planning department to actually work on an assessment, the assessment report for inclusionary zoning, or do we need to look at looking at a budget issue paper or something to try to get it on the work plan for 2019?
Mr. Reedman?
Through the mayor, so there's a couple components. One is with the change in provincial government. We're not sure what the status of the inclusionary zoning program will be. So one thing we are looking for is a bit more certainty from the province that this program will continue before we expend a lot of resources on doing the assessment and working on the official plan amendment that would be required through this. So that is one component that we're looking at, and then I think through the strategic plan we'll be reporting back on how we'd implement things, including affordable housing through that program.
So can you just help us understand really clearly, are we currently doing an assessment, or are we waiting on clarity from the province in terms of their direction in this matter?
Through the mayor, we are working with the City of Waterloo to gain a better understanding through the province on what the status is. So we are not doing a full assessment. That is a significant body of work that until we understand the certainty level, we would not recommend pursuing at this point in time.
Okay. All right. So one last question. Will we be receiving some updates through the year if there are significant updates on these joint initiatives going for 2019?
I was planning to do another annual update next year. If you wanted something earlier, we could certainly arrange for that.
Well, I guess it doesn't necessarily have to come from you, Ms. Dever, but I would love to know for each of these, you know, if there are significant, you know, progressions or milestones that have been reached. It'd be good for us to be able to have that information in a timely way.
Mr. Chapman?
Through the chair, what I can say is that the ones that I believe are high priority for council, so I think of things like the speed limit review and inclusionary zoning, they are in the business plan, and so through the business plan process, you will receive updates. I would suggest things like assessment management, they're important, but probably not as urgent to be reporting on frequently. But we have a sense for what the priority areas are for council, and it's my understanding that they are all in the business plan, and therefore we'll have quarterly updates to council.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, those appear to be all of the questions. And this is just here for information, so thank you very much for bringing that forward, Ms. Dever.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move into, there are no delegations this evening, so we'll move into committee reports, and Councillor Davey, Finance and Corporate Services.
Thank you. It's been moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Paul Singh that the 4 items of Finance and Corporate Services Committee be adopted.
Okay, Councillor Gazzola.
Yeah, I have a question. I just want to follow up on item number 2.
Okay, go ahead.
No, and I've talked to staff, and they've provided me with most of the information. I just wanted to ask again, what kind of dollars are we looking at we're applying for a grant. What is the amount of the grant that we're looking at?
Mr. Reedman?
Through the mayor, so the approximate total is 125 million, and we'd be seeking 40% of that funding. So that's over a 10-year forecast as well.
Okay, so we're looking at close to $50 million. So the point I wanted to get here is, and all is fine, but so if we get $50 million, do we have to match that with our own monies?
Through the mayor, that is correct, but we do have that money allocated within our budget over the 10-year forecast.
All right, so it's already allocated for projects, so that by getting the grant, we're actually $50 million ahead. Yeah, because so often we have to split the costs and have to find new sources of revenue. So that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so the Finance and Corporate Services Committee report has been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Planning and Strategic Initiatives, Councillor Marsh.
It has been moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Chapman that the report of the Planning and Strategic Initiatives Committee be adopted.
Okay. And any questions? No. All those in favor? Opposed? That too is carried. We'll now move on to unfinished business. There is none. New business, Councillor Ioannidis, I believe you were looking to waive notice for a motion regarding boulevard parking? Yeah, sorry, turn you on.
That is correct.
Okay, have you circulated that already?
I did circulate it to members of staff, but I would love for it to see it on the overhead.
Okay, if I can ask the clerk to put it on the screen, please. And I will need us to deal with a motion to waive notice. So, Councillor Ioannidis, you're moving that. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Davey. Councillor Michaud on waiving notice, or? Oops, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to defer this. I haven't had enough time to look into this issue for Ward 4. So I would like to go back to my constituents because I didn't hear too much about this topic during the campaign, and I just got this today.
Okay. Well, first of all, before we even go there, we would need to deal with waiving notice, and then we can deal with the deferral. Councillor Gazzola.
Well, I had somewhat the same concern. If we waive notice, does that mean that it could be dealt with tonight and it be passed tonight and that's it?
It could. That
yeah,
is
that's so. I too would also like to see it deferred till I would hear from constituents. It's sort of. I'm not disagreeing with it, but it's. I would like to see it deferred till a January meeting. I don't think we're going to run into any heavy problems between now and then.
Councillor Davey.
Yeah, I was just going
on waiving notice. We can stay focused on that.
Yes, sorry, I guess this is technically outside of that somewhat, but just a suggestion for any councillors that are concerned about it. There's always the potential, I would suggest, to defer it with respect to their respective ward versus the entire city.
Councillor Singh.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quite briefly, as kind of suggested, perhaps deferring this to a January meeting. I appreciate Councillor Ioannidis' effort to bring this in tonight's and this year's last council meeting because, again, parking issues typically end up being more compounded in the winter months when on-street parking is not allowed, and much more so, especially during the holiday season when you have other visitors from out of town visiting, and that creates additional issues as well. And family and friends that would be spending the night as well. So I think in that sense it is timely, and we have seen this issue come before this council chambers many times. So in that context, it's not necessarily new. I would be supportive on wanting to see this matter to proceed forward, at least for discussion.
Okay, so waiving notice has been moved and seconded, so to deal with that vote first.
Can we have a recorded?
Yeah, you sure can. Okay, and Madam Clerk, we require 2/3 to waive notice, so that, yeah. So if you want to discuss this evening, we don't have to come to a resolution. We have to waive notice to even have a discussion about it tonight. And in fairness, I believe there was some discussion between Councillor Ioannidis and clerks around this issue, but there was some confusion around getting it on the agenda for this evening. So that's sort of the context behind this. Yeah.
If we vote against it, it means we can't even. I have no problem with discussing it. My problem is taking a final vote to it because then.
So we could at the end defer it, but if you want to discuss it, we need to waive notice first. Okay? So you have to, I guess, trust the process, Councillor Gazzola. Okay, so that carries, so we now can deal with the issue. Councillor Ioannidis, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Verbanovic, and thank you for allowing me to have this discussion. There was a bit of a mix-up between myself and the clerk, so this should have had all intention of this being on the agenda, and the main reason was because parking is an issue that we're going to be seeing concern from residents, in particular during the winter months, and if we don't deal with this today, then we're going to have another 3 weeks, 4 weeks before we even get a chance to deal with this. So, and then that goes most of the most difficult time, and the reason why I'm putting this forward is I think we all must have heard something about this at the door. That's where this is coming from as renewed sense for me, because I was very supportive of this last term, and I feel that the council makeup at that time didn't support that. So with 3 new members, I'm hoping that they can see some value in why this is important. And particularly with the new subdivisions that are being built in everyone's ward, those on-street parking is becoming very tight, and you're going to see this issue, whether you might not see it today, but you will see this issue with regards to parking in your ward if you're having a lot of new development. And so I would hope for this to see move forward as far as citywide, but if you prefer to not have it on your own ward, I would suggest what Councillor Singh had mentioned, or was it Councillor Davey, just defer your own ward if that's how you feel, because I heard loud and clear from residents in Ward 7 that this is something that they want, and I've heard it more than just other wards, from other wards as well. So hopefully this can be supported and passed. And this is an issue that I feel it's not new to our table at all. Like it went through probably, this is like the 5th time in the last 4 years that we're dealing with this.
Okay, and I think just for clarity's sakes, Councillor Galloway-Seelock, we did this as a pilot initially in your former ward, if I remember correctly, and then made it a permanent solution? Yeah, okay. Councillor Singh, you're...
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question of staff. So, as Councillor Ioannidis said, this is something that has been discussed numerous times around the horseshoe. Initially, it was for citywide as a pilot project, but council had amended that and made it specific to Ward 5. And after a year's time, a report came back and it became permanent there. But so we can get some information related to it. What type of complaints did we receive or positive feedback?
Mr. May?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I would remind council that back in 2014, when this was last discussed, staff supported the proposal that Councillor Onitis has on the table today. We continue to believe that it's that we can support the proposal. I can't speak to every complaint or positive comment that has come into the city, but what I can tell you is that our bylaw division has received very little, if any, complaints in Councillor Galloway-Seelock's ward. But we do receive regular complaints from other parts of the city asking to be allowed to do the same thing in their ward. The one request I would make, that we support it if it's citywide. I would get very concerned if we start to have a patchwork of bylaw enforcement from ward to ward, both from a communications perspective, but also from an enforcement perspective. So I think I would just encourage you to either do it all or do none of it.
Councillor Singh, you still have the floor?
No, I'm done.
You're done? Okay. Councillor Michaud?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just a little concerned with Ward 4 because, as I said earlier, there were no complaints about parking. There is complaints about parking, but not being allowed to park at night on the street. But that's not going to change because from December until, I think, April or May, you can't park at night on the street. So I would really like to be able to go back to my constituents before this decision is made and at least have a conversation with them so I could make an informed decision. Thank you.
Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, just along the same lines of the pilot project, but a bit broader. Are there any other areas in the region that allow for this sort of parking in that area, or other cities in Ontario that we're aware of?
Mr. May?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can't speak to that. I don't have the original staff report in front of me, but I could certainly recirculate that to council.
And Mr. May, just as part of that, when we went from the pilot to the permanent solution, did we consider, like, part of the concern in the pilot phase was snow removal and stuff, but we found that wasn't a problem? Can you?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can tell you that I speak on behalf of bylaw enforcement staff, transportation planning staff, and our operations staff when I say that we're comfortable expanding this to the entire city.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Johnson. No, so I turn you on. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
That was actually my question, was going to be about snow removal and whether or not there was any issues that came up around snow removal with people parking between their boulevard and the sidewalk.
Mr. May?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, my recollection, and it's going back to 2014, is that was not a major issue, although it was one of the concerns that we had when we created the initial pilot. Unfortunately, I don't have the report with me, but there are very specific criteria, I think 5 or 6 bullets of how you must do this if you're going to be allowed, and part of those criteria was to avoid exactly what you're asking about.
Is that it? Yeah. Okay. Councillor Davey.
Thank you. Just one question. Supposing this does get approved this evening, how long, like I presume it would be instantly that people would not be charged, like if they parked tomorrow night, how long would that lag time be? Because I can expect questions if the media covers this, right?
Mr. May?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the motion says as of December 1st, so I would have to speak to our bylaw enforcement staff tomorrow morning, but I expect if it's not immediately, it's within 24 to 48 hours.
Okay, thank you. And I won't be commenting, Mr. Mayor, but I just will say that for any councillors that are uncomfortable with this, I will certainly be supporting a deferral for their ward until January, whatever time they see fit.
Councillor round 2, Councillor Singh.
No, I'm ready to make a comment, so I can ring back in if you want.
Any more questions? No? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick comment, really. When this had come back after the trial project, pilot project, sorry, In Ward 5, I was hesitant, similar to some of the other concerns I'm hearing around the Horseshoe, and thinking that there would be a pushback or issues of just how it's seen on a street with cars parked along the boulevards all along. I can honestly say I've heard more comments from my ward, at least, in asking why are we not allowed, especially those that were fined. Because right now, and this is a question I wanted to ask for more clarification, but I believe enforcement is only on complaint basis. So people are doing it across the city and hoping that they don't, someone doesn't call bylaw on them, and they only get fined. Otherwise, they don't. I see this, I think, a palatable way to proceed forward, because it is still a one-year pilot project, similar to what we did in Ward 5. We can go anecdotally on Ward 5 and hearing that it has been positively received. We haven't had issues with our services that we deliver, especially for snow clearing. And it could be other challenges that could be for something that's, say, citywide, but that's why it is for a one-year pilot project. And I think it allows us to go back to a community. We tried something different. And if we are getting resistance, if we are getting criticism, that's something that we can obviously revisit when the year is up and a report comes back, and we can vote differently on it. But I think it's worthwhile giving a try citywide, and that's a different opinion that I initially had. And seeing the positives in Ward 5, and that's why my opinions changed in thinking this is something that may be positive throughout the whole city. And we obviously, the report that comes after a year would give us more insight.
I don't like dealing with things. I always like the process of dealing with things in committee, having a week or two to think about it and get more information, and then ratifying them at a council meeting. I've never liked having something come up at a council meeting and totally approved, and that's the end of the story. I've not heard a great deal from the ward that I represent. I knocked on an awful lot of doors and no one talked about parking on their ramp. So I don't, and I've not really seen any reports about Ward 5. I haven't seen what the results were, how many incidences there were of this or that. Now, I don't know if that's out there and I just didn't see it, I missed it, but I don't remember seeing any statistics as to what has happened. I will support this tonight for a one-year term, although I don't like going that way. I don't like the idea of pulling out separate wards and dealing with them across the city. It would be a nightmare for our property standards people as to what wards are on one issue and what wards are on another issue. So I would like to see it deferred to January the 1st. I don't think that's causing a lot of hardship, and in the meantime I could study up and see what the practice has been and what the impact has been, but I will try to compromise.
Okay, so you said January the 1st. I don't think any of us are hoping to be here on the 1st. Oh, so, I mean, yeah, so if there is a deferral, it could, if there is a deferral, in theory, I guess it could come to special council on the 7th, or the first council meeting, I think, is 28th of January. Yep, that's what I'm saying. Councillor Schneider.
Thank you, Mayor Vanderbeek. I want to thank Councillor Ioannidis for bringing this back up again. It is something that we have discussed in past councils. I have heard from residents that would like the option of parking on the boulevard portion of their driveway every once in a while. I don't see this as something that's going to have a huge uptake. I think it's something that gives our residents an option when they need it. And I have heard from residents, saying, I'd like the same treatment that Councillor Galloway-Seelock's ward's residents get. Again, it's an option. This is a pilot. It's a year. If it doesn't work, we can go back and fix it. If we need to adjust it, we can. But it'll give us the information we need to make a permanent decision.
Councillor Michaud.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not against this motion totally. Just as a new councillor, I would like some time. I believe it's my due diligence to check with my constituents to make sure that the majority are. I think it's not a bad idea, but again, it's come up. I haven't had time to review it with anybody in my ward or in Ward 4, and I would really appreciate that option. So I would like to defer it for January 7th.
Councillor Galloway Seelock.
Yeah, I just want to say, put in my 2 cents. Obviously, having gone through it, there will be minor hiccups along the way. You have to also have an education campaign go along with it, which was done in Ward 5. We had the people who parked lengthwise on the boulevard so that their whole car was blocking the road. So there are some things that with education help change behavior, but I think people for the most part use it as a necessity. They don't, if they have the ability to use their garage in their driveway, they do. But if you happen to have a child that drives or come home from university or any of those things, it does definitely help provide an extra parking space. And I think I'm of the opinion that deferring it may not be a problem, just simply because bylaw already is a little bit more lenient during the holiday season. So I'm torn between deferring and not. I know, though, that at the end of the day, I will support this because it is working with minimal problems in the ward I represent. And as you can see in one of the whereas clauses, we even have it year-round in one subdivision. And so I think, and even year-round, I'm not hearing any issues. I'm seeing it in other parts of my ward where they're parking on the boulevard, not just in the winter months, but I think people use it more as a necessity rather than, wanting to do it every day, because it does start to impact the movement of your cars in and out. Not always the first car that's on the boulevard leaves first, so there's a lot of rearranging of cars. So it really has worked in Ward 5.
Well, and I think the point that you made just in that regard, it's my understanding, because I asked the question today, that starting this Friday through to January 2nd, we're into that more lenient time frame where essentially, unless there's a snow event, they follow the normal rules, which is we only act on a complaint basis for more than 3 hours, but we don't worry about the overnight piece unless there's a snow event called. Sort of our Christmas gift to everybody as they have guests. Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, just a question. Would this apply to regional roads as well? No. Okay. And I just worry a bit about it in the downtown ward because of the fact that so many homes are subdivided, and just the congestion and the confusion it could create, and also the, I don't know how I'm going to vote yet, but that, I guess, is my concern. And I would like to reach out to, certainly through the neighborhood associations, to get an idea of where they sit on this issue. It was something I didn't hear at the door either, so that's it.
Councillor Marsh?
Thank you. Yeah, in my downtown ward, there aren't that many driveways really that are wide enough or deep enough for anyone to park there. So, I do actually have a question of staff, if I may.
Go ahead.
So back when we reviewed the the hen bylaw, while staff were reviewing it, we did not prohibit people from keeping hens. And I just wonder if we could do something similar where we, between now and the time that we actually deal with this, if we were to defer this decision, if we could suspend the rules so that anybody can park in the driveway apron between now and the time we make a decision, but that then we won't make a final decision until everybody's feeling comfortable with where their constituents are at.
Mr. May.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, given the relatively short period of time we're talking about, if you're talking about dealing with it fully on January 7th, if council were to explicitly add something to the motion that gave staff direction to suspend enforcement until that time, I think we could do that. There is a risk. I mean, we still have a bylaw on the books, and if pushed, we may have to do something about it, but your example of the chicken bylaw is a good one. It was successful in that case. So I think as long as council has an explicit clause in this motion, that could be doable.
So I look to Councillor Ioannidis to see if that would be an amenable amendment.
Councillor Ioannidis?
I really don't have an issue with that. It's fine with me. That's my main concern. But realistically, staff's already been doing this for 5 years, and I'm not understanding what's the hesitancy all of a sudden for everyone to be concerned that it's being rolled out. We've been doing it unofficially. Let's just do it.
Councillor Johnson, you're next.
Thank you. I actually like Councillor Marsh's idea. I think that's I think that might be a really good way to kind of bridge the 2 points of view about it. I also did not hear about it when I was knocking on doors, though. I think when you're knocking on doors during the election, you hear of things that are top of mind to people right then. And when there's not snow on the ground and no rules against parking on the road at that time, then you're not as apt to hear about those things then. And I also agree with Councillor Ioannidis that the time when it's going to be most effective will be over the next few weeks as people are having house parties and having people wanting to stay and not having enough room in their driveway. So I agree with both of you.
Councillor Gazzola, you already had a comment?
No, I don't have. I just wanted to mention that regional roads, there are residential properties on regional roads. So it applies to regional roads too.
It does, unless the regional road is marked, as many of them are, for no parking or whatever, right?
No, we're parking on ramps now, so that you're not on the road, you're on the ramp. So,
Mr. May, can you provide some clarity on that? Do you know how we handle regional roads now? Or if you don't know, maybe Councillor Galloway-Seelock might be aware.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think this would be a great opportunity to ask Councillor Galloway-Seelock. I'm sorry, I don't know that.
No, it's okay. Councillor Galloway-Seelock.
I'm just thinking of all the regional roads in my ward, and I can't think of any that have street fronting homes on them, so it wouldn't be an issue that we're currently dealing with. I could be wrong on that, but I'm like, Trustler Road is a regional road and there's farms on it, so they've got long driveways. It's not an issue there. New Dundee Road, it's same thing.
It's more an issue in the inner city, I'm thinking, like Ottawa and Westmount, but not out your way.
There is a small section, maybe 5 houses, that it would include on Ottawa Street, and they all have long enough driveways. So I don't think that it's really been an issue that I can have any more insight into than that. But yeah, I'll keep thinking about that while we talk. But
Mr. May?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, if council were to take the approach that I think is being discussed, which is discussed on January 7th for a final decision, but give us specific direction to suspend enforcement until that time. What we could do is recirculate the staff report that came in 2014, which has much of the data that Councillor Gazzola was asking for, and I could also get a specific answer on the issue of regional roads.
Okay, and so I think what I'm hearing, Councillor Ioannidis, is you're comfortable with your motion being referred to the 7th with the understanding that we won't do any enforcement between now and then, and we'll deal with it at special council on that date. Yeah, and between not enforcing this aspect and the fact that essentially from Friday till the 2nd anyway, people can, for the most part, park on the street unless there's a snow event, people will be covered off for the next few weeks. Okay.
So we're referring as opposed to deferring?
We're referring as opposed to deferring.
Whatever that means, okay. Just on a lighter note, I just got my snowblower fixed, and we're good for 6 weeks of no snow.
Are you the official new Wyerton John? Okay. Well, thank you. Keep fixing it for the rest of the season, Councillor Gazzola. Okay. So your motion has been out, Madam Clerk. Yes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, just a little point of procedure here. You can't refer a motion to yourself. So in other words, you can't refer from one council meeting to another council meeting.
So we are deferring?
So here's where life gets a little complicated. Again, when you do a deferral, you can only defer and you can only amend the time or the date to which you're deferring. So my esteemed colleague and I recommend that Councillor Ioannidis withdraw the motion at this point and bring it back on the agenda for the January 7th. And then we put forward a motion for the enforcement not to be done until such time as this matter is brought forward again. So that's the cleanest, most correct way to handle it under the procedural bylaw.
That's exactly what I think I just said, and what I think I heard Councillor Ioannidis say. Thank you for your assistance in helping clarify my thoughts. So with that, Councillor Ioannidis has removed the motion, and it'll come back at special council on the 7th, and in the meantime, we will direct staff to not enact enforcement. Mr. May.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to be a stickler, but I think it would be very helpful if council passed a specific motion by vote in terms of suspending the enforcement.
That's fine. Yeah, no, that's the motion I'm taking. Do we need it written? Okay, sure. I think we know what it, but go ahead. So that staff be directed to suspend enforcement of the bylaw preventing parking in driveway aprons until January the 7th, 2019. Okay. So, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And we'll deal with this issue at special council that day. Any other new business? Councillor Gazzola.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay. Oh, just hold on. Then, any other new business?
Oh,
no?
sorry.
Go ahead then with your Q&A.
Yeah, I want to ask staff if they can give me an update on the crossways for the LRT in the Kingsdale area. What is happening, where we're at?
Mr. Reedman.
When we can start using it.
Through the mayor, so we continue to work with the region on detailed design for the walkway as well as land acquisition that the City of Kitchener is leading.
So if I just go a step forward, is the region done with the design work yet?
We received a first draft last week, and we had some comments, and the region had some comments as well. So we're anticipating a second draft of the detailed design work in mid-January.
Have we started with any land acquisition yet?
We're in parallel discussions with property owners, but until we know the specific details of land requirement, we can't proceed with an offer of purchase and sale.
Okay, I appreciate that. Fine, thank you. My second question deals with, again, it's somewhat tied into the LRT, in that at the corner of Siebert and Cortland, there's a traffic light that's been in place for 6, 8, 9 months, and it's not operational yet. And I was told that it was as soon as the LRT was going, because it's tied in somehow with the LRT, and I didn't push it further because the LRT was going to start in December, but now that's off. Is there any chance of getting that traffic light operational and not having to wait till spring when the LRT starts?
So my understanding is that they're doing testing right now, and it should be operational this week from the region.
Good, that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Now I have another question.
Yep.
And I would like to ask, and I don't know if I can do this or what the process is. I'd like to ask about getting a report from staff. We've had 2 issues that have affected our city dealing with, the first one was the cancellation of a community center site, and the other one was with the Chris Kindle market. We've had 2 issues that have resurrected. There have been comments on one side and the other, but no real complete report on the issue. And I'd like to, is it possible to get a report from staff on those 2 issues so that with every issue, there are 2 or many sides to every issue, and is there a way we can get a report that deals with this?
So I think, Councillor Gazzola, staff have given council updates on both of those issues. I'm looking at Mr. Chapman. They do involve personnel issues. So I don't know if that's something that would need to be dealt with in camera or Mr. Chapman?
Through the mayor, we've tried to keep council apprised with updates, and so certainly after this meeting we can send council the most current information we have on both. We consider the matters largely closed. In the case of one of the issues you referred to, there are ongoing discussions with the complainant, but they're moving in a good direction, and so certainly we can update council by email after the meeting on that.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, then we'll move into the bylaws. It's been moved by Councillor Davies, seconded by Councillor Marsh, that leave be given the mover and seconder to introduce the bylaws listed on the agenda, and the same be taken as read a first time and stand referred to the Committee of the Whole. Councillor Chapman.
Okay, I'm going to backtrack for a moment. Under new business, it says that we would get an update on the regional council news.
Sorry, there wasn't really anything to update, so...
Okay, well, can I just ask you a question then?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just wondering about the readdressing of the locations for the safe consumption sites. They're talking about looking at hospitals again, and I thought that had already been...
Sure, I can do a brief update on that. So regional committee got just an information update on the process that regional council will be dealing with. Regional staff will be bringing a report tentatively right now at our first committee meeting, which I believe is January the 8th, with respect to next steps concerning potential safe consumption sites, or whatever the new name is, that has been given by the provincial government. The province, as you will recall, for everyone's benefit, was put a freeze on them initially, and has now come back and said that they will ultimately approve 21 sites with a list of criteria around those 21 sites. That criteria includes distance separation between existing sites. So what we are suspecting, because there are currently 21 approved locations across Ontario, and a number of municipalities, including the regional municipality of Waterloo, that are interested in creating new sites, that some of the existing ones will likely not be permitted to continue because they're in too close proximity to each other or don't meet some of the other new criteria that the province has created, which would then open up some space for other municipalities like the regional municipality of Waterloo. The one thing that has also changed in the new criteria from the province is that the locating municipality ultimately has to approve any location that the region is prepared to submit to the province for consideration. So whereas before we did not have a final say, and our neighbors to the south of us used a planning tool, such as an interim control bylaw, to sort of freeze the process, the tool that we have available to us now under the new regulations, if council were not interested in pursuing the direction the region goes to, is to simply not approve a location. In the dialogue at regional committee where the information was shared last week, there was also dialogue around the hospitals. That dialogue primarily came in the context of the city of Cambridge, where, as you know, there's an interim control bylaw that they're not prepared to see one in their either of their 3 downtown cores right now, and they've wanted a hospital site considered for some time, even though it doesn't meet all of the provincial criteria. And we know from the work that's been done by experts in the field that hospitals generally don't tend to have the same degree of uptake as facilities that aren't presently in an institutional setting. Having said that, Cambridge asked that it be looked at because that's sort of the only possible location that, as a community, they're prepared to, it seems, consider at this point in time. And through that discussion, I did indicate that, quite frankly, the hospitals have come up here as a possible location as well. And so if Cambridge's hospital is going to be on the map or on the, being looked at, then quite frankly, Grand River should be looked at as well, because if you actually look at it, it actually, while not ideal in terms of proximity to use, it is in the middle between Waterloo and Kitchener, where we know there's issues in both communities, and it's also on a transit route. So in the course of that discussion, then somebody said, well, if we're considering Grand River, St. Mary's should also be considered, and so St. Mary's was added on the list, but and this is simply, my gut reaction is with the lack of transit access and everything there, I can't imagine St. Mary's being actively considered, but that's a process that regional staff will review. So all that to say is that there will be a report coming out on the 8th, or that will be considered at committee on the 8th, as to what those next steps should look like. The other thing that has changed since then is that the federal government has now removed the requirement that the province needs to sign off on any locations. So even if we don't, let's say, get one of the 21 locations that the province is prepared to sign off on and fund, this region could then go and apply the federal way and actually potentially get a license, but would then have to self-fund it or fund it in partnership with community groups, but not get any provincial funding. So those are all of the pieces of the puzzle that have sort of changed since we've dealt with this last as a council. Mr. Chapman is on sort of the regional sort of senior staff grouping that's dealing with this issue, and Mr. Pinard is sort of dealing in the staff working group. And so I would anticipate once it becomes clear that sort of what the next steps are at the region, that our own staff will be bringing a report back for this council to consider. So hopefully that helps a little bit in terms of clarification.
Yeah, I just thought that there was resistance to putting in the hospitals because of the uptake, and that had sort of been discarded. And I realize that Cambridge is still sort of pushing in that direction, but I thought that... Yeah,
and I would, you know, while regional staff have been asked to give it a serious look, and I believe they will do that and give council acting in their capacity as a Board of Health their best professional opinion. And then it'll be, quite frankly, up to the politicians to decide how they want to handle that going forward. And ultimately, it'll be up to our council to decide how we want to handle it going forward. As you'll recall, the 3 locations that are still on the books as potential Kitchener locations are 115 Water Street South or North? North. The vacant lot behind the ambulance station at the corner of Weber and Victoria, as well as the building kitty corner to us here at the corner of College and Duke Street, are the 3 sites that the region has.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so back to the first reading of the bylaws, and there are some extra bylaws, Madam Clerk, so I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. There are 8 late starter bylaws, 2 zoning bylaws dealing with 307 Highland Road West and 42 Wyndham Road, 1 zoning bylaw relating to the annual update for bylaw 85-1, and 5 bylaws with respect to various chapters of the Kitchener Municipal Code respecting fees.
Okay, so they have been moved by Councillor Davies, seconded by Councillor Marsh. All those in favour? Opposed? That's carried. It's been moved by Councillor Gazzola. The Council resolve itself into Committee of the Whole. All in favour? Opposed? That's carried. Over to you, Councillor Gazzola, if you can click in. Oh, can you click yourself in? Thanks.
Somebody move second reading of the bylaws. Councillor Galloway-Sealock. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Moving on to the agenda. Item, nothing on item number 1. Item number 2. Someone care to move that? Moved by Councillor Snyder. Any questions? Any answers? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item number 3, someone moved. There are 4 articles there, lengthy ones, coming from the Committee of Adjustment, I guess. Someone moved that? Sorry, okay. Any questions on this?
It was moved by Councillor Johnson.
Oh, sorry, moved by Councillor Johnson. Any questions? No questions, answers. All those in favor? Carried. Item number 4, moved by Councillor Singh.
Councillor Davey has a question.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. The only question I have on this is this purely, I noticed the previous election is referenced as well. I just, whenever I hear cash flow, I want to make sure that it's not a special circumstance. So is it purely a function of the election that's the museum is making this request?
Mr. Reedon? Oh, sorry.
Through the chair, that is correct. So my understanding is the past election, this request was made and granted as well.
Okay, I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to ask this question or not. I think I would usually ask this when it came time to approve this, so I guess I'll ask now. But I think we're all aware of the museum's ambitions. Has there ever been any overtures made in terms of the pros and cons of asking the museum if they'd be interested in having a member of council sit on their board?
Who's going to answer that?
I would say we haven't ever discussed that, but I actually have a meeting with them later this week, I think, and so it's certainly something I can ask if that's this council's desire.
I'm not going to make a motion, but if you would do that.
I'll ask the question and report back to
Thank
council.
you, and I'll move this as well. Sorry, Councillor Singh moved it. Thank you.
Yeah, I also have a question on it. I wondered, how do we treat the other two organizations that are sort of somewhat special, the Symphony and the KW Art Gallery? How do they receive their funding?
Mr. Chapman.
We don't have that information here. Councilor Gazzola, we can report back.
Yeah, I just wondered, do they receive it on a month? Well, if you can get back to council with an email on it, okay? Thank you. Any other questions on that item, item number 4? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And we have to pull out, I understand, item number C7, appointments to Kitchener Housing and Center in the Square. There's a report there. Someone prepared to move it. Moved by Councillor Snyder. Any questions concerning that issue, that item? Councillor Chapman has...
Yeah, wait, let me find it. I noticed that we hadn't filled all the positions in the Centre in the Square board. Is there a reason why we can't take those applications and give them the opportunity to be part of the board? Like based on the applications that we got, I think some of these were new from when we went through this earlier.
Yeah, I'm not. Go ahead, Madam Clerk. Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the applications. It's just that Centre in the Square Board has not had an opportunity yet to go through them and review them and make a full recommendation of a slate to council. That's expected to come forward in January sometime.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Mayor, sorry, Councillor Ioannidis or Councillor Davey.
Thank you. So 2 questions on this, and perhaps I missed it, but are we not supposed to appoint members of council at this time?
So can I suggest that we extended ourselves? So I would suggest let's extend it till February and do them all at the same time.
January?
January or February is what they're saying in here.
Okay, that's fine. For both, for Kitchener Housing and for Centre in the Square Board? Okay. And that falls into my next question. It's not explicit in this report, but I presume that the existing members of the, well, especially Centre in the Square, will continue in their capacity as a member until there's new appointments. Okay, I see the clerk nodding. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, at this moment, Centre in the Square Board is appointed. The members that they're proposing to reappoint are appointed until December the 31st. So it will be important that we have them in place for January. So there are 2 more members whose applications are in process right now. We're just waiting for those, and I couldn't put it through on this particular report, but they are looking to reappoint 2 members currently, but that's not part of this report. I couldn't put it through. They're only in place, though, until December 31st. Okay.
So should we...
That's fine. To January. We'll deal with it before.
No, she's saying they expire December 31st. Sorry. Councillor Gazzola, you...
Well, can we not leave it, like, we're only dealing, we're not talking about the whole board. The board can continue to function, right?
Through you, Mr. Chair, my understanding is that they have 8 vacancies at this moment in time. So no, the board will be short on members if we don't appoint Ms. Gordon at this time and allow the 2 current members that will be reappointed in January to allow them to continue and have them reappointed before the next board meeting in January.
And so that's what this report is asking for tonight, right?
Correct. So for Centre in the Square, Ms. Gordon is being recommended by Centre in the Square to be reappointed. And the two current members, Elizabeth Spruill and Emmanuel Patterson, are continuing on until the end of December. The idea is that it come forward in early January for reappointment before the next board meeting of Centre in the Square.
So we can carry on with approval of this recommendation for tonight.
Yes.
And if I could just clarify, sorry, I think I still have the floor, but then, so there may be a lag time of a week or something like that, or 2 weeks, where the potential reappointments won't be part of the board, but there isn't a board meeting in that interim anyway, so it shouldn't matter.
Right, but can I suggest, just for ease, that we actually extend everyone to the end of January? Because if there's an emergency board meeting needed or something, that there's clarity around who's got authority and who doesn't, both for council and these individuals.
You move it. Councillor Singh, you wanted to amend your motion to take that into account? Just say yes. Are there any other questions?
Sorry, you got Councillor Chapman and Councillor Marsh in the queue.
All right, Councillor Chapman first.
I just don't understand why we're not assigning a councillor to the housing.
We did.
No, we haven't.
Bill was appointed.
To the Kitchener Housing Corporation. We haven't done it.
Yeah, I thought we were extending that the same as the other.
Yeah, but we're all here.
As far as our appointment, as far as the council appointment.
Right, but we're all here, and that sort of gives us an idea of where we might be in the end of January. I mean, is there a reason why we're going to postpone it? I guess.
No, I just thought we would deal with both of those issues that we left from our striking committee open and deal with them at the same time. It doesn't matter to me, but that is Madam Clerk, can I have some help here? I'm drowning.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm trying to remember now. I know for Centre in the Square, we did defer the council appointments. I have a recollection that Councillor Ioannidis was appointed for Kitchener Housing. I think Jeff is my deputy's taking a look now. But at this point in time, these are the citizens, so there's nothing that precludes council from moving forward with the citizen appointments at this time, if you so choose.
Yeah, Mayor Verbanovich.
So just for clarity, we extended Councillor Ioannidis until, I believe it was either the end of December or the end of January, and myself, not Councillor Etherington, because he's no longer a member of council, and because the board at Kitchener Housing has been trying to figure out a whole bunch of structural issues with their board, and I'm not sure that they've completed that process yet. So I think that was the only reason behind waiting.
So on that basis, we'll leave it till we deal with it as originally.
Unless Councillor Chapman wants to.
Yeah. Councillor Chapman, you're satisfied with where we're going? Yeah. Councillor Marsh, you had a question? Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now, Madam Clerk, are there any other items for the agenda?
There are, Mr. Chair. There are two late starters coming from tonight's caucus meeting. Item 1 is that the city solicitor or her designate be authorized to execute confidential minutes of settlement or other documents with respect to 20 Brideup Street. And a second item saying the city solicitor or her designate be authorized to execute confidential minutes of settlement or other documents with respect to appeals discussed and instructions given at the in-camera meeting today, December 17, 2018.
Okay, can we deal with them separately? Is someone prepared to move item number 1?
I'll move 20 Brideup.
So you're moving that, Mr. Mayor? Are there any questions on that? Any answers? All those in favor?
Don't forget about the conflict. Yeah.
Okay, I thought that was. I thought it was noted already. So, okay. So we're okay on that one. Someone prepared to move item number 2? Moved by Councillor Ioannidis. Any questions? Any answers? All those in favor? Carried. Now, Madam Clerk, there's another staff report. Is that to be dealt with tonight? Dealing with the multi-party emergency alert agreement? Someone?
Yes, you are correct, Mr. Chair. There is a third add-on item, Core-18-22, regarding a multi-party emergency alert agreement. The recommendation from staff is that the CAO be authorized to execute a multi-party emergency alert system agreement for the grant of a license to access and use mass notification technology from Everbridge, which has been procured by the Region of Waterloo, said agreement to be to the satisfaction of the City Solicitor.
Moved by Councillor Galloway-Seelock. Any questions on this item? Any answers? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Any other issues?
Move that the committee rise and report.
It has been moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Singh that the proceedings and the recorded pecuniary interests and conflicts taken in the meeting of the Committee of the Whole held this date as attached hereto and forming part of these minutes are hereby adopted and confirmed.
All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. It's moved by Councillor Davies, seconded by Councillor Marsh, that the bylaws listed on the agenda for third reading be taken as read a third time, be finally passed and numbered serially by the clerk. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And before I take a motion to adjourn, I just want to take this opportunity to wish council, staff, and our viewing audience very Merry Christmas, if that's what you celebrate. Happy Kwanzaa, happy holidays for those who don't, as well as a healthy, prosperous New Year on January the 1st for throughout 2019. A reminder to our viewing audience that we have our Ghostbusters themed New Year's Eve family event at City Hall on December the 31st, starting at 6 p.m. And of course, we will have our annual council levy, thank you, on January the 6th from 1:30 until 4 p.m. And so with that, a motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Schneider. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried.